Hi guys, welcome to our second episode of the Anti Homosexuality Bill 2023 as community leaders share their opinions about the bill. I still have my guests, Ruby, Serrano, Bana, and my co-host LJ. What rights are affected by the bill?
First of all, access to information and access to resources. I think every Ugandan has the right to access information. But even if the right was not there, I think the world is now open. It's kind of ridiculous to imagine that they can restrict gay content, in quote unquote, for adults, for people who have their own phones, for people who know how to use VPN, for people who have pay for their Netflix, for companies for content that is not even produced in the country, but that is outside the country. I mean, it's very ridiculous that when you think about it, it sounds stupid and silly, but the goal is very clear. It sounds stupid that you can say that I can be arrested for watching a Netflix show that I paid for and that another foreign company is producing. But the idea is to say that, okay, we don't care about the Netflix, we don't care about those things, but if you're Ugandan, there are no gays in Uganda. If you are gay, shut up. I mean, that's the basic point of it. So you cannot be gay, but anyway, whatever. The other countries, they can be gay, they can do whatever it is. And LJ was talking about the issue of kids and accessing information and content. This debate, I've had a lot of stories from not just kids, even younger, older, 16, 17-year-old teenagers asking about this topic, because 24/7, that is all that is. And kids research, kids now have access to smartphones. And if really the government's aim was to say kids should not have access to gay content, let me even make it more broad and get in their shoes. Now I'm in the shoes of a parent thinking that everything gay is bad or everything gay is pornographic. Should it be the government's responsibility to manage how your kids access the internet? Should it be the government's responsibility for coming into your home and saying, watch this, don't watch this? Because literally the bill is saying that the government can arrest your child for accessing something on your phone, whether you knew it or not. Because this bill also criminalizes children. It criminalizes a child, whether consciously or unconsciously accessing this information. So there is a short-sightedness in thinking that you're going to control media or you're going to control gay content from people who create that content, not even thinking about the Ugandan market. But because we are an interconnected world, people have access, including kids. So I like what Halima said, mukuza abana bamwe. Like, if you are so concerned, raise your kids the way you want to raise them, but do not dictate for other people how they should raise their kids or how best they should raise their kids, because that is very flawed. I mean, I was raised differently, and also my parents really wanted to raise me in a certain way. And I turned out different because, like, I got access to information, I got access to resources, and there is no way they could say that, this is how. So I think on the issue of kids and information, I think it's not the government's responsibility to come into people's houses and teach them how to parent their kids.
Also, as someone who is watching a movie, how am I supposed to know that the next scene is going to be of gay kids dating? Because I was watching a movie, and then it was an animation, and then there were these kids who were actually a gay couple, and I was also shocked. I was like, what if my nieces and nephews were in the room? What would I have done? So how am I supposed to know, as a parent watching an animated movie with the kids, that the next scene is going to be maybe a gay couple or gay animated something watching this.
I mean, the government is now telling us to be UCC, to be
our own UCC.
That means
Yeah.
that even when you're driving your car and a song,
And-
a
A
song from
yes.
a radio that is international, that is not a local
Yes,
radio,
yes.
is playing.
Yes.
Anybody driving next to you, even but the guys can be like,
I recently had one of the government ministers. So they were having an argument about this particular clause of the bill on promotion, and he was lost for words, because when you tell him that the algorithm on TikTok does not know that you're in Uganda, and in Uganda you are what? So it just gives you whatever it finds, yeah? Also, you cannot really determine. There are some things which are even subtle, yeah? Like you watch a cartoon or you watch a TV show, and you don't know whether this person's gender is male or female, yeah? You could, the gender expression could be different. I mean, someone could come and they're trans, and they are really feminine, and you can't tell. So are you going to say that we are going to first undress everyone and first verify or first check? Yeah, because there is a lot of dynamics that go in policing how people talk and how because it's back to the point of information. It's policing how you talk and what you say. And if you're going to police the way people talk, people first of all are going to create language, yeah? And there's already language that is created around queer issues and queer people. So how are you going to always be keeping up, yeah? Which means every 2 months you'll be creating a law. If the queer people come up with a new word or a new way of expressing themselves, you create a new law. Because, I mean, you're playing catch-up, yeah? Because it's a point of expression. I think what should be criminalized is non-consensual sexual activities. And so if you want to be so broad, it means you're going to criminalize even things that are ridiculous. Because you can criminalize just someone just smiling.
As someone who reads, I read a lot online, books online, and erotic books. That's my genre that I love reading.
It has to be erotic, of course.
So I'm just saying, even as a child growing up, I liked fictional erotic books, and I would read them online. And my mom didn't know about this. Like from high school, she didn't know. We had a library at home, and I would never touch them, but I would look at the titles, keep quiet, go to school, wait for someone who has a phone, and download everything and read. Or I would ask a friend to get me the copies and read, because she had a rule: nobody reads this section. She would put them in sections. So like it goes beyond even just the publication, like online. And people these days read things online. Like a lot of people read, whether they download audiobooks or so. What happens to also those? And there are 1,000 bookstores online. Like you can't even start saying we are banning this one, we are banning this one. Like you just can't. And then there are times even in the book you don't know it is a queer book, but around chapter 47
There's a
queer person comes up, or even the main character becomes queer. No, just becomes queer. So like you were saying, CJ, about the cartoon, out of the blue,
The next
you know, you might be watching a series, neighbor mukate nalingiza, nemula episode 1, episode 2, episode 4, where it happens, you don't know. So the neighbor is going to call police and be like,
LGBTQ.
LGBTQ.
It actually reminds me of a roommate. I had a roommate at campus, and we would be watching a series, and the moment a gay scene pops up, he's like, oh, I'm not watching. He's like, tell me when it gets done. I'm like, okay, so I just watch. Even when the gay scene gets done, we continue watching, and he's still turning the other side. I'm like, still outside because you don't want to watch.
It was the club.
Oh yeah, I'm not queer, we are watching.
You reminded me of I was always curious about how these local VJs. I was always curious. So there's a time I was watching, I don't know if it was Sex Education, and they were translating, yeah? So whenever there was a weird guessing, he would go in adverts, like kakati haji gundi la 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 la
Done, yeah.
until it gets done, and then when you come back kati, so like then they reached a point where you could not avoid the plot line, so he would just leave the people to speak for themselves and then he would come back. So it is so weird. It's so weird because now I'm just imagining all the jobs and all the people that are these things. We don't think about them, by the way. Now I'm thinking of a VJ. His job is just to translate movies, yeah, and like now he can't do his job because now he'll have to look through all the movies he's translating.
And all movies lately
Yes,
have
queer content.
queer content in
Yeah.
it. So literally, he's going to translate 2 movies the entire month.
Yeah.
Because literally even now cartoons like
even cartoons.
Yes.
yeah, they do.
And queer movies are their own
and
movies.
the cartoons that are not having queer, as long as they have rainbow.
Yes.
Like, let's even just
Then
flash
the
back to
rainbow.
this.
Yeah.
A lot of queer, a lot of
Cartoons.
animations and cartoons, and these are for just highlighting or increasing a child's imagination of colors, and it has nothing to do with queerness.
Yeah.
But then even just a cartoon or an animation with maybe a character wearing anything in rainbow, and literally I grew up watching that. Like, I don't know if there was never a cartoon you would watch without rainbow colors in it.
Yeah.
Never, even growing up, and it was never a big deal because then we didn't even, personally, I didn't know then that rainbow
Yeah,
colors.
the rainbow was nice too.
I
Yeah,
didn't know,
too.
but I just loved the rainbow
Yeah,
colors.
'cause it's
And then
colourful.
I've always asked myself, so what happens to this other story in the Bible of the coat that was given to
The coat of many colors.
many colors? Like,
we are updating that.
LGBT.
I'm taking out that part.
we need to update the Bible and flash
Yeah.
out that bit, because that bit is there. We have songs related
Yeah.
to that bit. So it goes just beyond even the animations or movies having queer, just even the colors themselves kind of raise question marks.
I think also with censorship, there is the tricky part of enforcing it. I've talked about a lot in this conversation about enforcement, because the law is not a law until it's enforced. Like we have so many laws on the books in Uganda that are not enforced. But when we think about like we've been talking about how to enforce the clause on promotion, we're thinking through the ideas of like everything ideally is promotion, because the spirit is criminalizing existence. It means that even breathing, me as a queer person, is promotion, because I'll breathe a certain way and someone will think
LGBTQ.
yeah. Yes, but also it takes me back a little to and something as queer people we don't often talk about, the censorship that is already existing on social media in Uganda, that there's lots of sites you can't access. The famous Father Lokodo woke up one day and got quote unquote a porn machine. Ideally, what he just did is he got a list of, he went to Google and searched for the top 10 porn websites in Uganda and blocked them. So they ate that money. A friend of his on his committee often likes to say that the porn committee was just a money, but ideally what he did was just block porn websites.
Actually.
'Cause, I mean, policing morality is very hard and impossible.
Yeah, true.
But it brings me back to this bill. The bill is a tool for grifters, for people who are just looking to make money. Yeah, make money through blackmail, make money through pretending that you are so holy and so a religious fighter, someone who is fighting homosexuality. I mean, the biggest benefactors of this bill, by the way, are not even your common homophobe. They are the people who are looking to profit off of marginalizing LGBT people. There are people who are looking to profit of censoring people of because I mean, if this bill passes, let me tell you, even the media houses that keep talking about homosexuality 24/7 are going to be criminalized.
Yeah.
So if you look at it in that way, you're going to realize that the only big benefactors in the bill are the religious leaders or the people who are looking to cover up sexual abuse in their churches. Because now you can humbly not talk about homosexuality, not talk about abuse, not talk about anything. The Catholic Church is actually one of the biggest benefactors because their priests are abusing kids day and night. Worldwide, it's not even just a Ghanaian phenomenon. It's a worldwide phenomenon that priests protect each other when they're abusing children. Like they move, In Uganda recently, I think it was Uwero, or it was Masaka. There was a story of a priest who was recently transferred from a diocese in, I think it was Italy, and they brought him here. And the reason he was brought was because he had abused children, and there was a whole scandal, and let's take him to Africa. Africans don't care. Yes. So like the biggest benefactors are actually the abusers of children. If you look at this bill and you see, think about who is going to stands to benefit the most. It's people with power, people with influence, and people who are abusing people, using that power to abuse other people.
What's the impact of the bill on the progress the community has made towards the fight for HIV?
I think
the bill is going to affect the progress that you've made.
Because we have normalized conversations around LGBT people, not just gay or MSMs, but everyone having access to things to do with prevention and care and treatment. It has been so successful to the fact that the prevalence rates among the LGBT community have really gone down. First of all, it's going to distort the data because now LGBT people, or quote unquote MSMs, are going to go back in hiding, and not just increase the prevalence rates of HIV among LGBT people, but also among even the straight population, the general population, because now people are assuming that just because someone is gay, they are only sleeping with men. I would be really scared to go to a hospital to say that I got HIV from anal sex. So when they're treating HIV, they do a sort of tracing. They trace your partners, link them to care, and to make sure that they are receiving the health care that they need. So it's going to be almost impossible for someone who has gotten HIV or is at high risk of getting HIV to sort of manage the treatment and care. And also even the idea of promotion is going to make it tricky for people to provide health care, because you cannot say that this is the challenge with having anal sex, things to do with even condoms and lubricants, giving them to gay people is quote unquote now promotion. And yet it's a basic healthcare need to prevent HIV spread.
Every time we have conversations on HIV, I like personally putting forward that some of the sexual acts or preferences that we all have, whether cis or gay or not, are similar. I know a lot of male cis friends of mine who love anal sex with their wives, and I know a lot of straight friends of mine who enjoy having anal sex because it's their preference. So now with what has been shared earlier, like if with what Mana shared, that sometimes when you go for these checkups, they have to check how you probably got these infections. So if I'm cis and still I had anal sex and I'm not even queer, it means I'll be reported as a queer person, but in actual sense I am not. But then it also brings us back to something I shared earlier. In the bill they were talking of unnatural forms of sex. So if your wife gave you a blowjob and they got a throat infection, there's a high chance they'll tell them they were sleeping with a woman, and that's where the infection. Or she will say that she can't even say that I got the infection from, but then this particular infection literally states that it was from sex, and if it's from sex, how did you get it? Which means you had an unnatural form of sex, which means you're also, being talked about in the bill. Yeah.
Progress, yes, the bill affects the progress of the HIV response. Because if we have reached to a point of having categories like MSMs included in the HIV response, and then the bill comes in, it definitely has to erase
The use of
MSMs. Because for us, having MSMs and them accessing healthcare, HIV services, is a big win for the community, because we have a goal to end HIV by 2030. So, what happens when the bill comes in? That means people are going to go back into hiding. Something Vanna mentioned, health facilities are using methods, it's called social network strategy, to trace the partners that you have had sexual relations with. Let's say you're positive, that means there's a very high chance of the people that are in your network being positive as well. So what happens to all that? That means people go back into hiding. I work on a program that is in the HIV response, where we're supposed to give intensive adherence counseling to people living with HIV. But ever since the bill was introduced into Parliament and passed by Parliament, you call a person that you know is living with HIV to provide that, and their number is off. And they're telling you, don't call me again. What's that supposed to mean for us?
They're still having
That means the law is very regressive. We are going back to back then, and that is just a disservice to the HIV response. It means all the gains we have had for all this while have resulted into nothing. Because a bill that criminalizes the existence of LGBTIQ people has come in. Everyone is going to go into what's the right word? People are going to go into, yes, and they're going to hide, and they're going, we're adults, we have sex. People are going to go into spreading the virus.
We have a lot of LBQ women who are sex workers.
Yeah, true.
A lot of LBQ women, it's a form of them getting money, it's employment for them. So many of them are going to infect their partners and keep quiet, which means it's going to be spreading even more within the community. We have trans men or non-binary people who are sleeping with men or gay men, and they're still going to be transmitting it to their partners because they'll fear to go for testing, or even telling their partners that I'm on treatment, get something so that you don't get infected. And because also this person is not sleeping with one person, does not have one sexual partner, they're also not going to know, okay, who gave it to me? Because they're having probably 3 people they're sleeping with. But out of those 3 people, one is taking medication and they can't tell them. So they've already spread it to these other 2 people, but they don't even know who has given it to them. So that's where we're getting to.
I would like to speak to funding, because the bill criminalizes funding as well.
Yes.
Yet we know the the money that we mostly have in the community is HIV response funding. So if the bill criminalizes such funding, where does that leave the queer community? Where does that leave Uganda
Even the
as a
government.
country? Where does that leave the Ministry of Health and Government? And also people living with HIV.
And children.
Let's speak of the drop-in centers that are providing services to people living with HIV. Organizations have been closed because they provide services as drop-in centers. When these organizations, which are actually safe spaces for LGBTQ persons, are closed, where will they have to access such services? Even when the health facilities that would have been the next safe space,
They are discriminatory.
health workers are supposed to report them to the police for being queer.
Wow. Thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this show. Our second episode has come to an end, and we've had intriguing conversations about how the Anti Homosexuality Bill is going to affect HIV funding and people living with HIV. as well as programmers of HIV. Where does this leave us? Please, if you want to join this conversation, or if you have any comments to say about this, you can share them in the comment section, and maybe we can talk about them in the next episode.